Finding a great job. How would you define a great job? Something which pays well, something where you're making a difference in the world and you feel like you're using your skills to the best of your ability. Whilst all of those things are true, I think for a lot of people, the difference between an okay job and a great job actually depends on the quality of their boss. Now, that's not necessarily something that we get to choose, or is it? How do you go about finding a quality boss? I think there's probably a proverb about that. He who finds a great boss finds a rare and precious thing. I'm paraphrasing. Tom O'Neill from cv.co.nz joins me. I think he's talking about wives. Solomon was talking about wives,
Yeah,
and he had
yeah.
plenty,
Well,
didn't he?
as many people know, my wife is Sarah the gardener.
Yeah,
So, and round here she is my boss.
yeah.
So there we go. So,
You found
works well.
you found a good thing in that regard. Talking today though about finding a quality boss, and people perhaps haven't looked at it like this beforehand, because isn't it the case when you go to a job interview that they're choosing a quality employee? How much of a say do we get to have in this one? Are we interviewing them at the same time? Is that what you're saying?
Oh, look, 100%. It's got to be a two-way process. I mean, I do a lot of interview coaching and I say to people, hey, you've got to be this, you've got to be that, all that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
We want to be a solution to the employer's problem. That's all well and good, but at the same time, they have an obligation to convince us that, this is going to be a great place to work, a
Yeah.
place that's going to meet our needs, whatever they are. And so really being very conscious of it being a two-way street.
Now, of course, we're putting our best foot forward. It's kind of like vocational speed dating, isn't it? We're wanting to be the best version of
Yeah.
ourselves to trick them into hiring us. But the thing is, our prospective boss is also doing the same thing, making a good first impression. I mean, how deep do we go in this? Do we ask for references? Do we say, are you okay if I talk to some members of your team? Find out whether or not you're a good boss? I mean, that probably wouldn't go down
Yeah,
that well at interview, would it?
I mean, it's a very much a one-way process in
Yeah.
that respect. We don't, employers will say, oh, well, can I have your referees? And I'll speak to them and, find out about you. We can't do that.
Yeah.
We can't go, well, look, that's great. So, boss, can I have a couple of referees of people that work for you? Even if they did supply them, they're going to go to two people that currently report to them and say, write me something.
In the
You're
same
not
way
going to
that
give them a
in the same way that we're going to choose referees of people that actually like us, right? I mean, the boss is going to do the same
well,
thing.
yeah,
Yeah.
hopefully,
Yeah.
yeah, that's the case, yeah. But again, so it sort of falls down there. But there are a number of options. I mean, obviously, in the interview,
Yep.
there's certain things you can do. You can say, during that period where you get to ask about the what questions do you have, you can say, well, what's your management style
Hmm.
as a leader? What do you like most about working at this organisation? And I know one boss I had, if I'd said, what's your management style and leading your team, she would have really pushed back on that,
Hmm.
which now 26 years later, I should have realized and not taken the job. But, and again, this is one way to do this. Another thing is a website called Glassdoor.
Hmm.
And that's a website where people go online and just really say the good, the bad, and the ugly about different organizations they've worked for. It can be a little bit of a place where people are just a bit, nasty.
Yep.
But at the same time, people rate organizations on
Mm.
how good that
Hey,
organization
you can
is
do it for
or
your
isn't.
restaurant or for a tradie. Why not? Perhaps for
Yeah,
employers,
yeah,
it's the same principle. I suppose there's different
that's
leadership
exactly right.
styles, and perhaps some people like or are more suited to some rather than others. But if you got like a checklist to go, hey, what are good leadership qualities? What's the difference between a good person to work for and somebody who's a poor manager?
Yeah, well, that's a great question. I mean, people leave managers, they don't leave organizations
Yeah.
normally. I know whenever I've left an organization, it's been my just didn't gel with the manager anymore, the
Yep.
boss, and just had to, start looking for opportunities. I didn't leave the organization. Organization's great,
Yep.
but I left the boss. And again, it really depends on the type of person we are. So, for example, if you're very entrepreneurial and someone who can be left alone to sort of just get stuck in, Well, you will do very well with a boss that's very hands-off and gives you a lot of direction.
Yep.
Gives you a lot of
Freedom. Yep.
sort of very laissez-faire approach. But
Hmm.
if you're someone who likes direction, likes to know what the responsibilities are and be able to meet those key performance indicators, that will be a terrible thing for you, having a boss that goes, yeah, no, no worries, just in you go. Conversely, if you're someone who is again, very entrepreneurial, very um, flexible in your work style, having a boss that's very direct and micromanaging is something that you
Yep.
will abhor, while the other person may actually quite like a bit more of that hands-on approach. So really, it comes down to thinking about who are you as an employee,
Hmm.
and therefore, what would be the best mix for a boss for me?
There's a danger, I think, as well in, we're talking beforehand about speed dating, that bosses, I don't know, being too friendly. And I know there'll be a lot of people listening that are going to identify with this of going, okay, the boss is trying so hard to be liked, but I'm not looking for a mate. I'm not looking for somebody that I can catch up with
Yeah,
over the
yeah,
weekend. That would just be awkward.
absolutely.
Uh,
Yeah.
finding that line between being friendly but perhaps not too friendly.
Mm. Oh, look, again, this is management 101, leadership 101. There's a TV show called The Office, and in it, the British version, is a guy who's very friendly and
Yeah.
he's the boss, but he's the guy that's down the pub and doing all the things and tries to be everyone's best mate. And in some ways, it's lovely because he genuinely likes his team and genuinely wants to be a part. But on the other hand, he just crosses that line
Mm.
in terms of having that leadership context. So it's about making sure you're friendly, you're engaged as a leader, but there is a time where actually I need to draw that line, because at the end of the day, you're going to ask people to do stuff they don't necessarily want to do,
Yeah.
i.e., make that another sales call, or stay behind, finish that project, or whatever it is. And when you've crossed that line, it's very difficult to now do that.
I think we owe a debt of gratitude to Ricky Gervais or Steve Carell in the US version for demonstrating
Yeah,
what a terrible boss looks like.
exactly right.
Because, I mean,
Oh, no,
if you look up
yeah.
terrible boss, there's probably a photo of him, right? Because he crosses
Yeah.
that line. However, I know there'll also be people listening into this today who are managers, who are thinking, look, I want to get that right. I want to do the best job that I can. I want to be there for my people. I want to get the tension right between those who report to me and those people that I report to. It is a difficult space to be. What advice would you give to managers listening on how they can be a quality boss?
Yeah. Again, I'd say what works best for you. What type of leader are you?
Hmm.
So if you're very, again, laissez-faire, you like to sort of plant a vision and let people work within that vision, and you just sort of pop in from time to time to make sure things are pointing in the right direction. Okay, great. What are the competencies and skills and themes around that?
Yeah.
On the other hand, if you're a bit more direct, you're more of a manager rather than a leader. In that context, you're more about the goals have been set. All right, how do I achieve those goals with my team?
Hmm.
So therefore, there's more of a micro sort of approach there. Not a bad thing, because a lot of people just do like it when a manager's in there, just literally helping them out and conscious of where everything's going. Because for so many people, it's frustrating when there's no feedback.
Yeah.
So a good manager will give that feedback, while a leader will sometimes leave that feedback behind because they're off leading. So again, really just trying to find who you are as a person who's in charge of people,
Hmm.
and then from there thinking, okay, what type of people work well with me? What type of people do I struggle with leading?
Yeah.
And making sure you're over time building your team around your strengths and skills.
Hey, some very good advice as always. And if there's people listening to this going, you know what, I'm not sure I do have a quality boss, maybe it's time to start looking. If you need to brush up your CV, of course, good place to start, cv.co.nz. Tom, thank you so much for the work that you do. Thanks for joining us.
God bless, my friend. Have a wonderful rest of your week, and catch up with you soon.
Hey, thanks very much for joining us in the Rhema studio. Thanks very much for watching the interview. It's kind of nice to have an audience, actually. And if you did like what you watched, then do give us a like, do give us the thumbs up. And if you'd like to see more interviews like that one, or perhaps even better, subscribe and those interviews will come straight to you. Don't forget to turn on your notifications, and we'll see you in the next one. Cheers.